We're live from New Delhi, watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi emplains for New Delhi after concluding his five-nation visit. Prime Minister highlighted issues faced by Global South, has also firmed up multiple pacts on areas of immense importance. Prime Minister Modi conferred with Namibia's highest civilian honor, also addresses Namibia's parliament, says both nations respect dignity and freedom for a shared future. Trump broadens push for tariff deals, unveils 50% Brazil levy effective from August 1st. Brazil warns of reciprocal measures. Letters also issued to Philippines, Sri Lanka, Brunei, Algeria, Libya, Iraq and Moldova. All eyes on ASEAN foreign ministers meet in Kuala Lumpur today, where US Secretary of State Marco Rubio will meet Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on the sidelines. And India and England brace for Lord's showdown. Jasprit Bumrah returns to boost India's pace battery, while Jofra Archer will play his first test in more than 4 years. 5-match series tied at 1-1. And on to the details now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will arrive this morning in a short while after successfully concluding his five-nation visit. In the first leg of his visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited to Ghana from July 2nd to 3rd. This was Prime Minister's first ever bilateral visit to Ghana. This prime ministerial visit from India to Ghana took place after 3 decades. While in the second leg of his visit, Prime Minister visited Trinidad and Tobago from July 3rd to July 4th. This was his first visit to the country as Prime Minister and the first bilateral visit at the prime ministerial level to Trinidad and Tobago since 1999. In the third leg of his visit, Prime Minister travelled to Argentina from July 4th to 5th. Prime Minister held bilateral talks with President Milei and discussed ways to further enhance India-Argentina partnership in key areas. While in the fourth leg of his visit, Prime Minister visited Brazil from July 5th to 8th, 2025, where he attended the 17th BRICS Summit 2025 in Rio de Janeiro. Prime Minister's visit to Rio de Janeiro was followed by a state visit to Brazil's capital, Brasilia, where he held bilateral discussions with President Lula. In the final leg of his visit, Prime Minister visited Namibia on July 9th, 2025. This was his first visit of Prime Minister to Namibia and the third ever prime ministerial visit from India to Namibia. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues to garner global recognition for his statesmanship and soaring popularity on the world stage. But this time, Namibia honoring him with its highest civilian award, Order of the Most Ancient Welwitschia Mirabilis. The award was established in 1995, shortly after Namibia gained independence in 1990, to recognize distinguished service and leadership. This makes it the 27th award for Prime Minister Modi and the 4th award in this ongoing tour. The award was presented by Namibian President, who hailed Modi's contributions to global peace, justice and socio-economic development. Prime Minister Modi dedicated the honor to the unwavering friendship between India and Namibia.
and Commander-in-Chief of the
वेलविचिया जिसके नाम पर इस अवार्ड का नाम रखा गया है, यह कोई साधारण पौधा नहीं है। यह घर के एल्डर्स की तरह हैं, जिन्होंने समय को करवट लेते देखा है। यह नामीबिया के लोगों के संघर्ष, साहस और संस्कृति का प्रतीक है। यह भारत और नामीबिया की अविचल दोस्ती का साक्षी है और आज इससे जुड़कर मैं बहुत गौरवान्वित महसूस कर रहा हूं। मैं इस सम्मान को नामीबिया और भारत के लोगों को उनकी निरंतर प्रगति और विकास को और हमारी अटूट मित्रता को समर्पित करता हूं।
Well, Prime Minister Modi concluded his Namibia visit with addressing the joint session of the Parliament, announcing India's support for establishing an entrepreneurship development centre in Namibia. He emphasised that the centre would serve as a hub for Namibian youth, providing mentorship, funding and networking opportunities to nurture their business dreams.
We are honoured to support Namibia's youth through the new Entrepreneurship Development Center. It will be a place where business dreams can get mentorship, funding, and friends too.
Prime Minister Modi also expressed his excitement over Namibia becoming the first country to adopt India's Unified Payments Interface, or the UPI technology.
We are thrilled that Namibia is the first country to adopt India's UPI, Unified Payments Interface technology. Soon, people will be able to send money faster than one can say Tangi Unene. Our bilateral trade has crossed $800 million. But like on the cricket field, we are just warming up.
Prime Minister Modi also spoke about Namibia's role in the reintroduction of cheetahs in India.
India and Namibia have a powerful story of cooperation, conservation, and compassion. When you help us in reintroducing cheetahs in our country, we are deeply grateful for your gift.
Well, Prime Minister Modi also highlighted India's historical leadership in the global south, from spearheading freedom struggles in the 20th century to driving development in the 21st century. He stressed that the global south's progress lies not in dominance, but through dialogue and cooperation.
In the 20th century, India's independence lit a spark, one that inspired freedom movements across the world, including here in Africa. In the 21st century, India's development lights a path showing that the global south can rise, lead, and shape its own future. The message is, You can succeed on your own terms without losing your identity. For this message to echo louder, we must act together. Let us create a future defined not by power, but by partnership. Not by dominance, but by dialogue. Not by exclusion, but by equity. This will be the spirit of our shared vision. From freedom to future, स्वतंत्रता से समृद्धि, संकल्प से सिद्धि. From the spark of independence to the light of shared progress, let us walk this path together.
While following the address, Prime Minister Modi interacted with the MPs there. He said that their positivity towards India was clearly visible. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has now delivered a record 17 addresses to foreign parliaments, matching the combined total of all Congress Prime Ministers before him. This milestone was achieved with his latest speeches in the parliaments of Ghana, Trinidad and Tobago and Namibia during his five-nation tour in the first week of July 2025. For perspective, all Congress Prime Ministers together delivered 17 such speeches over several decades. Prime Minister Modi has equaled that tally single-handedly, underlining his stature as one of India's most globally engaged leaders. And in Namibia, Prime Minister Modi held high-level delegation talks with President Dr. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah in the capital Windhoek, focusing on deepening India-Namibia ties. The discussions covered cooperation in energy, health, education and digital technology with the aim of strengthening bilateral partnerships. In his address, Prime Minister Modi underscored cooperation in the civil, nuclear and petroleum sectors. He affirmed that both countries are committed to further promoting trade and investment. Earlier, President Nandi-Ndaitwah praised the strong India-Namibia relationship, emphasizing the potential of both countries to expand trade and investment cooperation. She highlighted key areas of collaboration, including green hydrogen, mining and value addition, oil and gas infrastructure development, food security and tourism. While following the talks, India and Namibia signed 4 agreements to strengthen bilateral ties. These include the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure Framework Agreement aimed at enhancing infrastructure resilience, the Global Biofuels Alliance Framework Agreement to promote sustainable energy, a Memorandum of Understanding on establishing an Entrepreneurship Development Center to foster innovation, and an agreement on cooperation in health and medicine to advance healthcare collaboration. These pacts underscore the shared commitment of India and Namibia to sustainable development and mutual growth. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has wrapped up an event-packed 5-nation tour aimed at deepening India's ties across continents from Africa to Latin America and the Caribbean. The week-long visit saw a series of landmark agreements and rare honors underlying India's growing global influence and commitment to the Global South.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi undertook a 5-nation tour from July 2nd to 9, visiting Ghana, Trinidad and Tobago, Argentina, Brazil and Namibia. A journey focused on boosting bilateral cooperation and strengthening India's global partnerships. In Ghana, PM Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit the West African nation in 30 years. India and Ghana signed 4 key agreements spanning culture, traditional medicine and more. In a special recognition, PM Modi was conferred Ghana's highest state honor.
Both the leaders acknowledged that this is a historic visit for the fact that this visit is taking place at the Prime Minister level from India after 30 years. President Mahama clearly acknowledged that it is a landmark visit that is very timely and very opportunistic at a time when Ghana is also looking for partnership with India to deepen economic engagement.
Next, in Trinidad and Tobago, PM Modi was welcomed by Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bharati, marking the first Indian PM visit to the country since 1999. Both the nations inked 6 MOUs covering infrastructure, pharmaceuticals and other sectors. PM Modi was also awarded Trinidad and Tobago's highest civilian honor, the Order of the Star of the Republic.
A total of 6 MOUs or agreements have been signed between the two countries. These are, firstly, MOU on recognition of Indian pharmacopoeia. Secondly, we signed an agreement on Indian grant assistance for implementation of quick impact projects. In addition, we had program of cultural exchanges for the period 2025 to 2028, an MOU on cooperation in sports, an MOU on cooperation in diplomatic training, and an MOU on the establishment of 2 ICCR chairs of Hindi and Indian studies at the universities of West Indies of Trinidad and Tobago.
In Argentina, PM Modi held wide-ranging talks with President Javier Milei. Both leaders pledged to expand cooperation in trade, technology, defense, health and space, reinforcing a growing strategic partnership.
The two leaders discussed the necessity of diversifying and expanding bilateral trade. The Prime Minister requested Argentina's support in expanding the India-Mercosur preferential trade agreement, noting that such an expansion can bring mutual benefits for both sides and open up new opportunities.
Prime Minister Modi then travelled to Brazil for the 17th BRICS Summit in Rio and a subsequent state visit in Brasilia at the invitation of President Lula da Silva. During the state visit, the two leaders held talks on trade and investment, defense and security, health and pharmaceuticals, agriculture, renewable energy, energy security, digital public infrastructure, space cooperation and traditional medicine. In a special gesture, President Lula awarded PM Modi Brazil's highest civilian honor, the Grand Collar of the National Order of the Southern Cross.
One of the key areas that were discussed, it includes defense and security, agriculture, food and nutritional security, energy transformation and climate change, digital transformation and artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies, industrial partnerships, including defense industries, critical minerals, oil and gas, and also bioenergy and pharmaceutical industry, and also business and private sector cooperation.
Concluding his tour in Namibia, PM Modi was accorded a ceremonial welcome including a 21-gun salute. Talks with President Nitembu Nandi Ndaitwah focused on energy, health, education and digital cooperation. India and Namibia signed 4 agreements to deepen ties, and PM Modi received Namibia's highest honor, the Order of the Most Ancient Welwitschia Mirabilis.
Cooperation that were discussed was in the area of natural resources, because as you know that Namibia is endowed with rich natural resources like diamonds, lithium, copper, cobalt, graphite. All of these rich critical minerals are useful for our industry. The cooperation in the area of health was discussed, which also included the possibility of Jan Aushadhi being introduced in Namibia. Also supply of medicines and direct sourcing from India.
With this multi-nation outreach, Prime Minister Modi has not only bolstered strategic partnerships but also reinforced India's position as a trusted and influential global player. Bureau Report, DD India.
All right, time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News now. Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Kuala Lumpur on Thursday morning to attend the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. During his visit, Rubio will attend a post-ministerial conference and a meeting by East Asian foreign ministers. It is Rubio's first visit to Asia since taking office, and he will try to reassure his ASEAN partners that the region is a priority for Washington. He will also meet with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and hold trilateral talks with the Philippines and Japan. Rubio will also meet with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on the sidelines of the ASEAN meetings. The two leaders will meet on Thursday as the U.S. prepares to send more weapons to Ukraine. It will be the second in-person meeting between Rubio and Lavrov. The meeting comes as Russia has been pounding Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities. Meanwhile, India will be represented by Minister of State for External Affairs Pavitra Margarita at the ASEAN-India Foreign Ministers meeting. He will also attend the 15th East Asia Summit, FMM, and 32nd ASEAN Regional Forum on 10th and 11th of July 2025 as part of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting and related events. The minister said he is looking forward to meaningful engagements and further strengthening the comprehensive strategic partnership with ASEAN. And moving on, South Korea's former president has been rearrested over last year's failed martial law bid that plunged the country into political turmoil. Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached in April over the order which saw military rule introduced for 6 hours in December. A senior judge at Seoul's Central District Court issued an arrest warrant for Yoon on Wednesday, citing fears he could destroy evidence. Yoon is already on trial for insurrection, personally appearing in court to contest the charges. However, Yoon has refused several summons from a special counsel launched by Parliament to investigate his martial law attempt, prompting prosecutors to seek his arrest on June 24th. While Yoon, who was the first sitting South Korean president to be arrested, faces trial on charges of leading an insurrection over his attempt to impose martial law. And moving on to West Asian news now, leaders are inching towards Gaza ceasefire deal as talks are going in good direction between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump in the United States. While speaking in an interview with Fox Business Network's Mornings with Maria, Netanyahu said negotiations are focused on a 60-day ceasefire that would see half of the living and the seized hostages returning to Israel. He said Israel had set up its own system to prevent Hamas from diverting supplies.
And you have been meeting with President Trump about a potential ceasefire with Hamas. Where does that stand? Will you agree to some of these new recent demands of Hamas?
Well, look, we are talking about a 60-day ceasefire in which half the live hostages and half of the seized hostages would be returned to Israel by these Hamas monsters, you know. And yes, I think we're getting closer to a deal, I think.
While Hamas on Wednesday said it would release 10 hostages as part of Gaza's ceasefire talks after Israel struck an upbeat note about the prospects for a deal to stop the fighting in Gaza. Well, the group's statement came after 4 days of indirect talks brokered by Qatar, and as the United States signaled its belief that agreement for a 60-day truce would be struck before the end of the week. Of 251 hostages seized during the assault on Israeli border communities near Gaza, 49 are still held in the territory, including 27 the Israeli military says are dead. President Donald Trump is also quite optimistic that there is a very good chance of a ceasefire in Gaza this week or next, after meeting Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday for the second time in 2 days to discuss the situation.
Well, we're talking about Gaza for the most part. I think we have a chance this week or next week. Not definitely. There's nothing definite about war and Gaza and all of the other places that we all deal with so much, but there's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind this week and maybe next week if not.
Netanyahu met with U.S. Senate Majority Leader John Thune and other lawmakers on Capitol Hill on Wednesday, where he said both he and Trump are fully coordinated on strategy and tactics.
President Trump and I have a common goal. We want to achieve the release of our hostages. We want to end Hamas rule in Gaza. We want to make sure that Gaza does not pose a threat to Israel anymore. In pursuing this common goal, we have a common strategy. Not only do we have a common strategy, we have common tactics. This doesn't involve pressure, doesn't involve coercion, it involves full coordination. President Trump wants a deal, but not at any price. I want a deal, but not at any price. Israel has security requirements and other requirements, and we're working together to try to achieve.
Well, Israeli Prime Minister also met with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon on Wednesday. Both leaders hailed their long-standing friendship and mutual ties and touted the success of last month's strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Netanyahu is making his third U.S. visit since President Trump took office on January 20th. Trump's Middle East envoy also indicated that Israel and Hamas were nearing an agreement on a ceasefire deal after 21 months of conflict.
And I can attest to that, being privy to not all, but many of those conversations. It does start with strength, but it always goes to peace. And we have that opportunity in the region because of your efforts and the efforts of our president. So thank you.
And Armenian Prime Minister Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Aliyev were meeting in the United Arab Emirates today to work to finalize a peace agreement after nearly 4 decades of conflict. The meeting in Abu Dhabi will be the two leaders' first formal encounter since they agreed on the draft text of the peace agreement. The South Caucasus countries have fought a series of conflict since the late 1980s. The countries said in March they had finalized a draft peace deal, but the timeline for signing it remained uncertain. Also, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that there will hopefully be a peace deal soon between Azerbaijan and Armenia, but offered no other details. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Photos of the first Barbie doll with type 1 diabetes released by Mattel in a bid to foster a greater sense of inclusion and empathy among children. The new doll features a visible continuous glucose monitor on an arm and an insulin pump, reflecting real tools used by many living with the autoimmune disease. Type 1 diabetes occurs when the body's immune system attacks and destroys the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas, making lifelong insulin therapy necessary. Lebanese designer Elie Saab presents his new fall 2025 collection for Paris Haute Couture Week, featuring opulent princess dresses worthy of the most beautiful fairy tales, with numerous strapless gowns with long trains made of silk chiffon or satin and adorned with pearls. The collection exuded regal elegance, with each look evoking fantasy and romance, solidifying Saab's place as one of couture's most celebrated storytellers. After decades of working as a fisherman, Froilin Correa is now helping to save an endangered amphibian with gills resembling a lion's mane and a remarkable regenerative ability. Overfishing, pollution and reduced water levels in Lake Pátzcuaro, its only natural habitat, Ekokoe is listed as critically endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. And still to come in DD India News Hour. India's National Investigation Agency filed supplementary charge sheet against the Havarana. Case pertains to 26/11 Mumbai terror attack case. Texas flash floods kill many. Search for missing intensifies. Governor orders flags lowered. Trump to visit the site. And Guatemala earthquake kills 5, sparks 30 aftershocks. Hundreds displaced as president visits hard-hit town. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Nipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in planes for New Delhi after concluding his 5-nation visit. Prime Minister highlighted issues faced by Global South, has also firmed up multiple pacts on areas of immense importance. Prime Minister Modi conferred with Namibia's highest civilian honor, also addresses Namibia's parliament, says both nations respect dignity and freedom for a shared future. Trump broadens push for tariff deals, unveils 50% Brazil levy effective from August 1st. Brazil warns of reciprocal measures. Letter also issued to Philippines, Sri Lanka, Brunei, Algeria, Libya, Iraq and Moldova. All eyes on ASEAN foreign ministers meet in Kuala Lumpur today, where US Secretary of State Marco Rubio will meet Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on the sidelines. India and England brace for Lord's showdown. Jasprit Bumrah returns to boost India's space battery, while Jofra Archer will play his first test in more than 4 years. 5-match series tied at 1-1. And moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues to garner global recognition for his statesmanship and soaring popularity on the world stage. In the latest honor, he's been conferred with Namibia's highest civilian award, the Order of the Most Ancient Volcanicity Mirabilis. This is the 27th international honor bestowed upon Prime Minister Modi as a roundup of the prestigious accolades the Prime Minister has received in recent months.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi was conferred with Namibia's highest civilian award, the Order of the Most Ancient Volcanicity Mirabilis. The award was presented by a Namibian president. This is not the first time that Prime Minister has been conferred with such state honors. Earlier, on July 9th, Prime Minister was awarded with Brazil's highest civilian award, the Grand Collar of the National Order of the Southern Cross. Brazilian President Lula da Silva presented the award in recognition of Prime Minister Modi's notable contributions to strengthening bilateral relations and enhancing India-Brazil cooperation across key global platforms. On July 4th, Prime Minister was awarded with the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the highest honor of the Caribbean nation, in a special ceremony at the President's house in Port of Spain. Prime Minister Modi is the first foreign leader to be conferred the award. On July 3rd, Prime Minister was awarded with Ghana's national honor, the Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana, in recognition of his distinguished statesmanship and global leadership. In June this year, Prime Minister received highest honor of Cyprus, the Grand Cross of the Order of Makarios III. In March this year, Barbados conferred on him the Honorary Order of the Freedom of Barbados. The award was presented by President of Barbados and accepted on behalf of Prime Minister by Minister of State for External Affairs Pabitra Margarita. In the same month, during Mauritius' National Day celebrations, Prime Minister Modi was awarded the Grand Commander of the Order of the Star and Key of the Indian Ocean, the highest civilian honor of Mauritius. He is the first Indian leader to receive the award. In April, Sri Lanka honored him with the Sri Lanka Mitra Vibhushana Award, the country's highest honor for foreign leaders. It was also the first time this award was presented to an Indian leader. Later in July, he was officially presented with Russia's highest civilian honor, the Order of St. Andrew the Apostle. Though it was awarded to him in 2019, he received it in person in 2024. The award recognized his key role in building a strong strategic partnership between India and Russia and promoting friendship between the two nations. In November 2024, Nigeria conferred upon him the Grand Commander of the Order of Niger, its highest honor. He became the only second foreign leader to receive this award, showing the high regard for his global leadership. In the same month, the President of Guyana, Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali, awarded Prime Minister the country's highest national honor, the Order of Excellence, for his visionary leadership and his support for the rights of developing nations on global stage. Also in November, Prime Minister was honored with Dominica's highest national award, the Dominica Award of Honor. The award recognized his leadership, support to Dominica during COVID-19 pandemic, and efforts to strengthen ties between the two nations. In December 2024, the Amir of Kuwait awarded Prime Minister with the Order of Mubarak al-Kabir, Kuwait's highest national honor. At the heart of these global recognitions lies Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision, one that focuses on the well-being of all humanity and on peace and dialogue. Whether addressing conflict, climate change or terrorism, Prime Minister's message remains clear. The world must stand united and work together to find lasting solutions. Bureau Report, DD India.
And the National Investigation Agency has filed the first supplementary charge sheet against the Thakur Hussain Rana on Wednesday. The case pertains to criminal conspiracy hatched by David Coleman Headley, Thakur Hussain Rana and other members of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Huji to carry out terrorist attacks in different parts of India. Well, the supplementary charge sheet pertains to the submission of documents regarding the extradition of accused Thakur Hussain Rana and the additional evidence collected by NIA. Further investigations in the case are continuing. And now let's give you some global weather news. Updates on the Indian weather first. Indian Meteorological Department has predicted intense rainfall across parts of central and northwest India this week, urging residents to stay alert and take necessary precautions. Unrelenting rainfall continues across southeast Madhya Pradesh and south Chhattisgarh, leading to widespread waterlogging. Heavy showers are expected to persist over Vidarbha, Jharkhand, Odisha and West Bengal throughout the week. Meanwhile, coastal regions including Konkan, Goa and Gujarat brace for intense spells of rain. South India is also in for a wet stretch, with Kerala, coastal Karnataka and Telangana facing heavy showers accompanied by strong winds reaching up to 50 kilometers per hour. Authorities remain on high alert as monsoon activity intensifies across multiple zones. Also, Delhi and parts of the national capital region are witnessing heavy downpour today. In Gurugram, vehicles and commuters were seen navigating through the showers. The area also experienced heavy waterlogging due to overnight rain. The Indian Met Department has predicted that rainfall in Delhi NCR is likely to continue over the next 2 days, with weathermen predicting a generally cloudy sky with very light to light rain accompanied by thunderstorms and lightning in Delhi until July 15th. Considering the situation, Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport has issued an advisory. It has advised the passengers to consider alternative modes of transport, including Delhi Metro, to reach the airport and avoid potential delays. It has also asked them to check flight status before heading to the airport. It further added that the airport's on-ground teams are working with all stakeholders to ensure that passengers' journey remains hassle-free. And updates on Texas floods now. The devastating floods sweeping through central Texas have claimed at least 119 lives, with over 160 people still unaccounted for. Workers in central Texas continue to comb through piles of muddy debris from the July 4th floods as Governor Greg Abbott ordered flags to be lowered to half-staff over the tragedy. The bulk of fatalities in the search for additional victims were concentrated in Kerr County and the county seat of Kerrville, which transformed into a disaster zone when torrential rain struck the region early last Friday. The catastrophe has triggered fresh scrutiny of the country's emergency response model. Governor Abbott, who toured the affected areas recently, said the state's emergency alert system would be reviewed in a special legislative session this month. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump will visit Texas on Friday to assess the damage and meet with officials. The Washington, D.C. region was hit by strong thunderstorms on Wednesday, causing flash flood warnings, tornado alerts, and several airport delays. The slow-moving storms brought dark clouds, heavy rain, and strong winds to part of Maryland, Virginia, and the district itself. Earlier, the U.S. National Weather Services issued a tornado warning and flash flood alert for parts of the U.S., including Washington, D.C. In the latest alert, the National Weather Service has asked residents to take shelter in a safer place. Also, 3 dead after flash floods in the U.S. state of New Mexico, just days after a devastating deluge claimed more than 100 lives in neighboring Texas. Emerging crews in New Mexico responded to several high water incidents late on Tuesday, following sudden downpours that triggered rapid flooding in low-lying areas. Many rescues have been deployed to conduct search operations. The National Weather Service declared a flash flood emergency earlier in the day. Meteorologists warned that more storms could hit the region in the coming days as climate change continues to drive more frequent and severe weather events across the country. Meanwhile, a powerful 5.2 earthquake rattled southern Guatemala on Tuesday, triggering over 30 aftershocks and leaving 5 people dead. Now, the town of Santa Maria de Jesus near the capital has been badly hit, with homes damaged, debris littering streets, with terrified residents camped in tents overnight. Around 300 people have been moved to emergency shelters, while 9 are injured remain in hospitals. Around 300 people have been moved to emergency shelters, while 9 injured remain in hospitals. President Bernardo Arevalo visited the area and assured locals that electricity repairs are underway and damage is being assessed. And thick smoke arose over Oropos, Greece on Wednesday as wildfires spread through the region, reaching the town of Asprohori. Firefighters quickly formed a barrier to stop further damage. The blaze is part of a wider crisis, with fires also hitting Athens, Crete, Spain and Marseille in recent weeks. To prepare for such emergencies, Greece had deployed record number of firefighters. Experts blame climate change for the worsening conditions, with 2024 marked as the hottest year ever. Authorities remain on high alert as extreme weather continues to fuel fire risks. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Wall Street rallies on Fed minutes. Nvidia hits $4 trillion milestone as tariff moves shake markets. And in Wimbledon, women's semi-finals will be played today. Stay tuned to know who plays who.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and on to some business news now. U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday issued a round of tariff letters to 7 countries, including Algeria, Iraq, Libya, Sri Lanka and the Philippines. The letters call for tariffs of 30% each on Algeria, Iraq, Libya and Sri Lanka, 25% each on Brunei and Moldova, and 20% on the Philippines. The latest letters add to 14 others issued earlier in the week, including 25% tariffs for South Korea and Japan, which are also to take effect from August 1st, barring any trade deals reached before then. They were issued a day after Trump said he was broadening his trade war by imposing a 50% tariff on imported copper and would soon introduce long-threatened levies on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. Trump has said trade talks have been going well with China and the European Union, which is the biggest bilateral trading partner of the U.S. Also, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that America would impose a 50% tariff on all imports from Brazil after a public spat with his Brazilian counterpart, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, this week. In the letter posted on Truth Social, Trump announced that the 50% tariff is linked to Brazil's treatment of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who is facing trial on the charges of plotting a coup to stop President Lula from taking office in 2023. Trump also accused Brazil of attacks on U.S. tech companies. Trump was involved in a public spat with Lula earlier this week, while Brazilian president fired back on Wednesday, saying new tariffs would be met with reciprocal measures. Lula said Brazil would not accept interference from anyone and added no one is above the law. Lula, his vice president, his finance minister and others held an emergency meeting in Brasilia on Wednesday night to discuss the new levies. Also, President Trump announced a 50% tariff on copper, saying on social media that it would be effective from August 1st and that the decision was made after a national security assessment. Trump signaled on Tuesday that he was imposing fresh tariffs on copper, sending U.S. COMEX copper futures to record highs. Also, Wall Street ended higher on Wednesday as Federal Reserve minutes boosted hopes for rate cuts this year, with officials downplaying lasting inflation from Trump's tariffs bringing relief to the investors. Well, Nvidia has briefly touched $4 trillion in valuation, becoming the world's first company to do so. Its AI dominance continues to fuel investor enthusiasm. On the other hand, copper prices jumped to record 17% after Trump announced a 50% import tariff, shaking global supply chains and boosting domestic prices. On the pharma and EVs industry, Trump further hinted at 200% tariffs on foreign-made pharmaceuticals through EV battery markets benefit from new duty exemptions. Electronics and solar sectors see cost cuts. Also, President Trump hailed West Africa's rich natural resources as he hosted 5 of its leaders for a White House summit aimed at fostering trade to counter the growing influence of Russia and China. Trump's administration is seeking to strengthen economic ties with the mineral-rich region as it hits 10 African nations with 10% import tariffs. Trump said African nations are going to lower their tariffs and that the United States treats Africa better than China does, adding that 5 African countries were unlikely to face U.S. tariffs. Trump, meeting with the leaders of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania and Senegal at the White House, added that he did not think those countries at the gathering were likely to see any U.S. tariffs. At a White House meeting, Trump told Liberian President Boakai he spoke beautiful English, then asked where he learned it. Although English is Liberia's official language, the remark, delivered in a room full of dignitaries, drew a mix of awkward silence and stunned reactions, casting a shadow over what was meant to be a diplomatic engagement.
Such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where?
Yes, sir.
In Liberia?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well, and they come from.
And moving on, Elon Musk-owned X's CEO Linda Yaccarino has stepped down from the role in a surprise move just months after the social media platform was acquired by the billionaire's AI startup. Yacarino did not give a specific reason for her decision. X and Yacarino did not immediately respond to request for comment. Musk thanked Yacarino for her contribution in a reply to the CEO's post on X. The resignation comes just one day after Grok, the AI chatbot developed by XAI, posted content referencing Adolf Hitler on the platform. The posts were later deleted following a public backlash. Her departure adds to the turbulence in Musk's sprawling business empire, including falling sales at its EV maker, Tesla, and AI-related controversies. And now let's take you where Prime Minister has just landed back right now in New Delhi after successful concluding his 5-nation visit. Up on your screens, you can see Prime Minister landing back in Delhi. He's landed back right now in New Delhi after successfully concluding his 5-nation visit. The visit spanned across Ghana, Argentina, Trinidad and Tobago, Brazil and Namibia, each leg reflecting India's growing influence and commitment to the Global South cooperation, development partnerships and strategic multilateralism. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has landed back in Delhi right now after a successful 5-nation visit. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. India versus England 5-match test series heads into its pivotal third chapter at the most iconic cricket venue of them all, Lords. The test series is finally balanced at 1-1. As the third test approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher, with both sides eyeing a crucial lead. While India arrives with the momentum of a record-breaking win, England will be desperate to restore parity on familiar turf. Here's a report.
After a dominant 336-run victory at Edgbaston, India carried not just momentum but renewed belief. Their captain Shubman Gill, who scored over 400 runs in that match alone, returns to the home of cricket as a batter in sublime form, leading a side hungry to rewrite their overseas record. But England, bruised yet unbowed, will look to bounce back hard. The Lord's surface, known for its early movement, could tempt the host to tweak their bowling attack. Eyes are on speedster Jofra Archer, who returned to the squad after recovering from injury. Meanwhile, India welcome back their pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah. His inclusion promises a thrilling duel, especially against England's in-form middle order.
Lords का जो टेस्ट का जो फर्स्ट सेकंड इनिंग का स्कोर्स भी है वो कंपैरेटिवली लो है, सो एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं कि थोड़ा हेल्प बॉलर्स को ज्यादा हो सकता है. बैट्समैन के लिए चैलेंजिंग सेम थिंग मैं बिलीव करता हूं कि वो माइंडसेट ही है. Spending time on the wickets is the best friend you can have.
Akashdeep, fresh from a record-breaking 10-wicket haul, rattled England's top order and notably cleaned up Joe Root with a fabulous delivery at Edgbaston. The right-arm seamer now faces the challenge of maintaining that form under the scrutiny of Lords. India's batting has found rhythm too. Apart from Captain Gill, Vice-Captain Rishabh Pant, Yashasvi Jaiswal and KL Rahul have showcased fearlessness and scored valuable centuries across both tests.
We, over the, history of 50-60 years, we played 7 matches over different courses, different teams coming here. I believe this is the best Indian team to be able to come here in England, and we have the capability to beat them, to win the series from here. And we have got the right momentum with us. If we keep making the right decisions and we keep grinding and we keep fighting, I think it would be one of the series to remember.
For England, a response is imperative. The batting unit, led by Stokes, Root, Brooke and Pope, has to find answers against India's varied and confident bowling attack. As the battle for Test supremacy intensifies, both teams know the third Test could be decisive. With the series tied at 1-1 and the Lord's stage set, expect no shortage of drama and defining moments. Sports Desk, DD India.
And England has named its team for the third test against India, which gets underway at Lord's today. Archer, who last featured in a test match in February 2021, has been building towards a return. He was seen bowling regularly during intervals at Edgbaston. Archer will replace fellow seamer Josh Tongue, the only change England have made for the third test. With the series tied at 1-1, the Ben Stokes-led England will be looking to bounce back against a high-on-confidence Shubman Gill-led India. And in Wimbledon, women's semi-finals will be played today. World number 1 Aryna Sabalenka will make the third Wimbledon semi-final appearance of her career when she faces American Amanda Anisimova on Thursday. Belarusian survived the scare against Laura Seichmund in the quarterfinals, rallying from a set down and erasing multiple deficits in the final set. While Anisimova is in her second career Grand Slam semi-final and the first in more than 6 years after defeating Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova in straight sets on Tuesday. In the second semi-finals of the women's singles, two first-time Wimbledon semi-finalists will square off for Saturday's championship finals. At one end of the court will be five-time Grand Slam champion Iga Świątek of Poland. Her Final Four showing here means the former world number 1 has at last made it semi-finals or better at all 4 Grand Slam events. At the other side will be Belinda Bencic of Switzerland, less than 15 months after giving birth to daughter Bella. This is only Bencic's second Grand Slam semi-final, but the former world number 4 is an Olympic gold medalist and a two-time WTA 1000 champion. And one of the world's most active volcanoes, Kilauea, erupts and spews columns of lava in Hawaii skies. This is the 28th episode of the ongoing eruption, which began on the 23rd December 2024. Take a look. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from Alpha in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.